expert witnesses. They made a grand total of one argument: clutter. The state has a compelling interest in preventing ballots from being cluttered. Now, there's the grocery store in North Carolina. We often go to Kroger. Here in Missouri, you go to Schnucks. I just like saying Schnucks, so I'll say so. Suppose you go into the Schnucks, and it's open 24 hours. It never closes. What do you not see in the cereal aisle? Dead people. You could imagine it. You could imagine someone so overwhelmed by choice in the cereal aisle, they're there for 3 weeks until they die. But that's not what happens. In fact, if you watch, I did this. I'm an experimentalist. I'm interested in actually watching what people do. They tend to walk in the cereal aisle, and they get the one they want, they put it in the basket, and they go on. The state of North Carolina was seriously arguing that there would be dead people in the voting booth. They would be so overwhelmed by having a third choice that it would be impossible. Well, that argument is so ludicrous that the fact that we were able to publicize it, that we were able to make some hay about it, just yesterday in the Winston-Salem Journal, it was reprinted in the newspaper in the state capital, the Raleigh News and Observer, have an article basically mocking. They said that the entrenched parties have incentives to act basically like Ford and General Motors. The difference is Ford and General Motors don't get to write their own antitrust laws. Imagine Coke and Pepsi. How many soft drinks do we need? I think 2 is enough. It's a choice. You can have Coke or Pepsi. Well, they don't get to write their own antitrust laws. The Democrats and Republicans do. They get to say that 2 parties are enough. It's a conflict of interest. This is an argument that you'll actually find many people in the media are pretty easily persuaded by, but you have to keep hammering away at it. You have to be willing to make appearances about it. You have to make that a focus of quite a bit of your advertising, your approach to try to work on elections. Well, it was very frustrating. We raised well over $100,000 just for ballot access. I got $1,000 from Wayne Rogers, Trapper John. We got several large contributions, $7,500 from John Allison, the head of BB&T. The National arranged matching funds so that near the end of our ballot drive, we raised about $12,000 and we got another $12,000 from them. That put us over the edge. That got us enough to get on the ballot. That meant that we could appoint candidates starting with nothing. We had dissipated every single penny plus more that we possibly could get. So the question is, and I'll tell this story briefly, the question is, how can you secure enough attention given that you have basically no resources? So once you've crossed that ballot access hurdle, now the answer, as any consultant will tell you, is earned media. Now earned media are going to say it's earned because that's why they want to get paid. It's actually free media. The point is, this is, how can you get your name and your arguments out there before the public? Well, we decided that the brass ring was the debates. First 2 debates were kind of old school organizations from, there was a CBS and ABC affiliate. We had no chance at that. But one of them was being run by the League of Women Voters. And they said if you could poll 5%, but this was July. How can you possibly poll anything when no one's ever heard of you and you didn't have a primary because you weren't allowed to because you were kicked off the goddamn ballot last time? How can you possibly poll 5%? We thought about having a money bomb, but we just didn't have enough explosives. So we had a little money grenade. And very explicitly said we're going to try to raise $6,000 to $7,000. So over the July 4th weekend, said this was going to be our patriotic money grenade. We raised about $7,000. We immediately spent it on radio in the larger markets where it was more likely that polling firms would contact some people. We got about a 3% bump, up to 5%, just long enough in 2 polls. We got copies of those polls, sent them to the League of Women Voters. They agreed, invited me to the debate. So, in a way, it's a very small scale, integrated strategy where you take the money that you have and try to leverage it into a large scale earned media appearance that's then going to get you over the top to keep ballot access. Now, as I said, in the debate, I did have the advantage that I was able to answer the questions. I don't mean just that I was able, because I didn't have the restrictions that they have. One doesn't have to have a PhD in economics to work on policy, but I have a PhD in economics. So I was also able to answer the questions in that sense. So many people that saw that said, well, that's a pretty plausible candidate. That's actually someone that I would be interested in hearing more about. And they wrote letters to the people that run the earlier debates and said, why didn't you include this person? Well, more broadly, we're not going to be able to get that message out unless we can consistently secure ballot access, not in the sense of obtaining it again every election. I mean secure it, put it behind us. Have ballot access and be able not to arrive breathless at the starting line, but to have a good breakfast because it's the most important meal of the day. And stretch and arrive at the venue. You know, maybe we'll win, maybe we'll lose. But there's some fast people in this room. There are some people in this room, if given a chance, they can run. So the point is, we have been forced by ballot access laws to take a skewed approach to politics. We tend to have to run people at the tops of ballots. That's not going to be the way that we're going to get the trust of voters that are saying, I don't know so much about these. I have no experience with them. Can you show me some libertarian elected officials that I can look to and say, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing. I see what it looks like to have a libertarian in office. Because ballot access restrictions tend to make us focus on the top of the ballot. You have more allies than you think. When it comes to ballot access, there's a lot of people, as I said, in the media that are potential allies. So let me just close with this. One of the debates that I was in, the Democratic candidate, Bev Perdue, decided that she would not show up. The Republican candidate, to his credit, Pat McCrory, did show up. And this was public television, which in public television tend to be people ideologically, they're progressive. They might call themselves progressive. But they also tend to have a sense that democracy is important and respect for listeners is important. So Pat McCrory and I, just the two of us, had a very interesting and pretty substantive debate. We had, at one point, in fact, we were having an argument, and he said, oh, I see what you mean. Okay, I stand corrected. I could see the cameraman's eyebrows went up. What the hell? Well, I mean, it's a credit to him that he would actually participate like that. But being public television, they had 4 breaks. There's no commercials, but there's 4 breaks. But before each of the breaks, this the woman who was the moderator would look into the camera and with a look of infinite sadness say, the Democratic candidate, Bev Perdue, was invited to attend. She chose not to. You have a lot of allies out there if you can start to get your message out. If we can secure ballot access and get it behind us, there's a lot of people in this room that can run and win the race. Thank you very much.